Hey y'all, this is Stevie from Class Cabinet, and we're finally doing one. I have been wanting to do a tier list for a long time now. They look like so much fun to do, just looking at all the list of games and putting things in different spots and having some way differing opinions. And I figured, since we're currently playing through all of Wolfenstein 3D on my Twitch page, twitch.tv/classcabinet, please follow, that we would do a tier list on classic first-person shooters. It's taking a look at some older games, some modern games, some revival-style games, and just have fun talking about a genre that I love very much. And I've done some ranking things on my TikTok page, which you should follow, at Class Cabinet. And I had some pretty mixed responses, so we'll see how this one goes, especially for a genre and a series of games that are very beloved. So, without any further ado, let's get started. And full warning, there are some games on here that I know are not great games, but I have a soft spot for them, and that will absolutely take over. My personal opinions are gonna be full force right now. There's some games here that I know are super important and people really love them, but they may not be as high on the list as it may be for you. So I will post this link in the description, and I'd love to see what your list looks like. I also added some extra categories, so we have triple S to F, and also haven't played or no opinion. So there's some games on here I just don't have much to say about, and they'll be on that bottom list. And we are going to get started with a Medieval. A Medieval is cool. It's a really cool game. I love the fantasy aspect of it. I'm not much into fantasy settings, but I love how weird some of a Medieval can get. I think it just has fantastic art design and level design, and Andrew Hulshult does the music for it, and he kills it. And he's on this list a lot, so we'll talk about his music for a majority of this video. But his music in the Medieval is really good. I feel like if I put more time into it, that game could go right up to an S. But what time I have put into it, I really like it, and it's a no-brainer why people love this game. Next, we have the Blake Stone games, and these games are really cool. They're made in the Wolfenstein 3D engine, but it's trying to do more with the gameplay. While everything is still, very map-like, or maze-like, I should say. The maps are like mazes, a lot of 90-degree angles, no elevation. It's all just flat levels, but there are NPCs walking around, characters you can talk to. It really does feel like an advancement on what Wolfenstein 3D did. But I have not put enough time into these games. These are games I will probably be streaming sometime this year to really give them their due. Blake Stone seems like a really cool set of games, and I think I will love them, to be honest, but I have not put much time into them to really definitively put them in one of these categories. Like, I'd feel bad putting it in like C if, it ends up being like an A. So I'll just put them into no opinion for right now. And next we have Blood. Blood is interesting. This is part of those, Ken Silverman made an engine called the Build Engine. And there are certain games that really push that engine to its limits. Games like Blood, Duke Nukem 3D, Shadow Warrior, even Redneck Rampage. These are what people really think about when they hear Build Engine. And Blood, people love Blood. It has more of like a horror feel. It's got this kind of Evil Dead sense of humor to things. It has one of the best shotguns in any first-person shooter of that time. I mean that. And it's just a cool game. And I'd love to play more of it. I haven't put enough time into it past like episode 1, but what I have played of it, I love. So much so that I think I like this more than, say, Duke Nukem 3D. While Duke may be more of an important game, I think Blood is just a better game. But I have not put enough time past episode 1, so I will put Blood in the B category, but I feel like with just a little more time that will go up in no time. And then we have something called Death Wish. This is an add-on for Blood, which I have not played. It's not been made evident. And from what I can gather, people love it. The community has really gotten behind it. This was a fan-made one, if I'm correct. And some people look at this as like the official Blood 2. And let's talk about Blood 2. So where Death Wish is a continuation of what Blood 1 did, and really making it something special, and really pushing all those things forward, Blood 2 felt like it wanted to be something different, but due to so many decisions and so many bad business decisions, Blood 2 is an F. The game was released unfinished. Monolith, who was making the game, who also made other really good games like Shogo Mobile Armor Division, they did not get the time and budget they needed to make Blood 2 be the game it needed to be. They were being published by GT Interactive, who I think at this time were about to be bought out. So there was this whole merger and acquisitions and shifting going at the time of Blood 2's development. And Monolith basically said, hey, the game's not done, and we need more time to get this game out the door. And then GT Interactive published the game. So it's not finished, and what is out there is really bad. It's a really bad game, and it did get an expansion that improved upon some things, but there's not you can only polish this thing so much. Blood 2 is unfortunately an F. Yeah, it's a bummer. That one's a bummer. And next we have Chasm. This is one of those games that I always heard in hushed tones, where people loved it, but it was always like, hey, if you were in a room with 10 people, there'd be one guy going like, yeah, dude, Chasm, really loving it, but I never could play it or find it. In fact, one of the main guy behind Dusk, he is one of the dudes who helped make the game more playable on modern computers. Like, he helped do some adjustments and really wanted this game to get its due. So people really do love it. It's now playable, or more playable. You can find the game on Steam, and that will be a game that's like, that game's on top of my list. That will be one I stream. I really want to play Chasm now that I can finally sink my teeth into it after hearing so many people talk about how much of a hidden treasure that it is. So that is one I don't have much an opinion on yet, but I can tell you from a distance, it seems like a game that is deserving of a lot of respect. And I know we have a lot of games and haven't played right now, but I can tell you right now, the whole top list here, I have played all of these games, so we should be good now. Alrighty, now we have Corridor 7. This is one of those games where my bias is gonna come through. I have a soft spot for Corridor 7. It was a game my dad bought. We played it a lot when I was a kid. It's also built on the Wolfenstein 3D engine. I also like that it has some neat things with its enemies, where you have this visor and you gotta go through different visions. With like the infrared, you can see where there's like tripwires, and then another vision lets you see what aliens are disguising themselves as objects in the level. There's also sometimes like a random jump scare will happen. It's really silly. It's not a good game though. This was a game that was made by Capstone, who is pretty infamous. Even back then, they were pretty infamous for the games they put out being of not great quality. But I'd be lying if I say I don't have a soft spot for it. However, it's a D. It's going into D. I will play this game right now and have a good time with it, but yeah, it's it's a D. Next, though, we have Cruelty Squad, and this is a game that is not for everyone. It's very abrasive. It's gross. If you take a look at this game, just like, taking a look at a trailer, the game feels like it's a joke. Like, why is this game so ugly? And then you play it, and you have this music that is grating. You have a control scheme that is not like any other modern game. It's gross in that it has like a biopunk feel, so you're getting upgrades like having an intestine that you can use as a grappling hook, or a gun that when you shoot someone with it, it gives them a massive amount of cancer. Like, it's a weird, ugly, abrasive, gross game, and I loved every second with it. Cruelty Squad is incredible. It is an S game. It is one of those things where if you can roll with it, if you can roll with its anti-capitalist, biopunk, demanding a lot from you as a player, you will find a very smart, very clever game. The way it encourages you to play through levels multiple times, to get different upgrades and to get different weapons, to find new ways, not necessarily the best way, but to find new ways to go through a level, to find inventive and clever ways to get through a level. I loved replaying Cruelty Squad just to see what else I could do. This game is wonderful. If you can't get past some of the very abrasive, and I use that word a lot, but I really mean it, it's abrasive. If you can't get past the abrasive nature of this game, I do not blame you. But if you can, you are in for something unforgettable. And next up, we have Daikatana. This is a game that I remember when I was in high school, when it came. It was already out for a few years, and I'm not finding it at a store, but I really wanted like a CD copy. So I convinced my parents to buy it for me off of eBay so I could have a physical copy of Daikatana. Because as someone who loves John Romero and loved the people at id Software, I just kept thinking like, you know what, this game, I'm going to love it. It's going to be some type of, misunderstood classic, and it's not. It's a bad game. It is really not good. This is a game that is trying something interesting in that it has these AI computer characters that are with you, and you can tell them to, go scout ahead, find items, stand back, attack. You're leading them, but the AI is so bad. And if one of them dies, and they will die, usually by walking into gunfire or falling off of things, the whole level ends. And the game, at a point, did try to discourage save scumming, so you couldn't save over and over and over again in the middle of a level. So you needed to find, like, these save gems, like the ink ribbons from Resident Evil, so you can only save a certain amount of times. And with a game that is, very demanding of its player, it's a high difficulty. And then you have these AI characters who they feel like they're completely out of your control, and you can't save a lot. And it also has some of the worst introductory levels. Episode 1 of Daikatana is bad. It's bad. The sound will just beat you over the head with all of the bad guys that are running around and all of, like, the robot frogs and the stock sound effects that are just at full blast. It will beat you over the head. And I really wanted to love Daikatana. It does get a little better once you get through episode 1, but I can't recommend Daikatana. I wanted to love it because I love John Romero, but I can't recommend it. One game I can recommend, though, is Devil Daggers. Devil Daggers rules. Oh, is this an A or a B game? This is an A or a B. You know what? I'm going to put it in B. But Devil Daggers is really cool. It's very just pick up and play. You pick up the game, you're in this dark room, you have like a fire hand, and you have all these other fire enemies, and you just gotta shoot them all. And how long can you survive? What kind of high score can you get? How good are your reflexes? How quick can you be? It's a cool, great arcadey game. The developers of this game then made a follow-up called Hyper Demon, which is even more in your face. It kind of has that Cruelty Squad feel in that there's a lot of sound and there's a lot of visual, and it's a lot to take in, but if you can understand what the game wants you to do, there's something wonderful there. While I'm not as much as into Hyper Demon because it is a little too much for me, Devil Daggers is this perfect arcade balance, and I can't recommend it enough. And now we have the Dooms. I love Doom so much, so I'm going to have a lot to say here. And we have Original Doom. That's a triple S. That is absolutely a triple S. It's my favorite game of all time. I love this game. I think it is one of the most important games ever made. The 30th anniversary of Doom is going to be at the end of the year, so I'll be playing a lot of Doom at that time, and I'll talk more about it then. But the most important thing for me is that this is my favorite game of all time. And it is absolutely a triple S. No matter what or when or how you play Doom, the game is still going to be wonderful. And yeah, Doom, triple S, absolutely. Doom 2, however, I'm probably going to put this into an A. Yeah, I'm going to put Doom 2 into an A. I'm not as into the level design of Doom 2. I find it to be not as refined, not as polished as Doom 1. There's also there's a level in the game called Tricks and Traps, and I think that's very indicative of a lot of Doom 2. There's a lot of levels that just feel like, what's the gimmick of this level? What's going to be the weird thing we can do? And I feel like that took precedence over making levels that are more, it is like easier to read and follow for the player. Also, Doom 2 is designed for people who played a lot of Doom 1 and want more of a challenge. So sometimes I find the difficulty to be sometimes a little much. I think Doom 1 had just tighter level design, had a tighter difficulty curve, and Doom 2, I think, just more than anything, I'm just not the audience for that style of Doom game where it is more lots of monsters at once, more of these tricks and traps. I'm just not as into that being the focus of these Doom games, and that definitely comes into play with Final Doom. These were the two officially released but not made by id Software Doom games put into one package. Those games were Evolution and the Plutonia Experiment, and I have feelings about Final Doom. Now, Plutonia is the fan favorite. People really like Plutonia, and it is that continuation, too, of those tricks and traps, and that difficulty of Doom 2. A level in Plutonia, it can be full of these rocket launcher revenants, and these hit-scanning machine gun commandos, and the game really does expect you to be great at Doom, and to be even better at it while you're playing. And I'm just not as much into that style of Doom. I much prefer a less difficult challenge, because I'm just not that good, you know, just hands down, just full-blown admit, I'm just not that good. And with Evolution, I usually gravitate more towards that. The level design does kind of lose steam near the end of the game. I think it starts really strong and then has some stinkers. While Plutonia is a shorter experience, it definitely beats you over the head. But even that all being said, I think Final Doom as a whole is a C. It's not bad, it's not great, it's usually not the Doom I go back to, but yeah, I think those are both C games for me. Doom 64, however, that's an S. That's absolutely an S. I think Doom 64 is really great at being a good in-between and balance of what Doom and Doom 2 are about. I think Doom 64's horror kind of vibe, it's more moody. It's got a lot of elements taken from the PlayStation port of Doom. That version of Doom compensated for not having as much space for different textures and some of the level design. So instead, what it would do was emphasize more of light and dark. You walk into a room and now there's like this really moody blue lighting. It really does change the feel of the game, especially with the music and sound effects being done by Aubrey Hodges, who has this more minimal, almost atonal, spooky sound effects and songs. And those elements are all added into Doom 64. This is an original game as well. It's not just a port like the N64 version of Quake, which also used a lot of those color and moody elements and used Aubrey Hodges as well. Doom 64 has more of a puzzle element too, which I really appreciate, considering it was originally made for the Nintendo 64, so how do they use that limited space? Well, we can use it in our level design and change the way you can play Doom. I think it's a great game, just through and through. I think Doom 64 is a great game. I love it to death, especially now that it's on Steam because of Night Dive Studio, who did a fantastic restoration of it. I would love everyone to play Doom 64. It's a great game. Now we have Doom 3, and I am of the camp that I am not the biggest fan of Doom 3. I find that the mixture of being, having kind of the run and gun elements of Doom and Doom 2, while also having these more, survival horror elements. I say elements a lot. I'm realizing that. I gotta stop saying that word. Having more survival horror and being a mixture of the Doom shooting, I don't think it sticks the landing on either. Once you get through the initial opening of Doom 3, where hell literally breaks free, I feel like the game has nothing else to offer in terms of spooky moments. I'm no longer scared of Doom 3 after that intro, and I found a lot of the shooting to be kind of flat, uninviting, not fun. I really am not a fan of Doom 3. I will say I've softened on it. I'm not as harsh on it as I was in the past, and I'm also of the camp that the Doom 3 shotgun is garbage, but the Doom 3 super shotgun is really good. I love the super shotgun. Put my hat into that dead debate. But yeah, Doom 3 is a game that just doesn't do it for me. But I am loving seeing people who it does a lot for them, and how much they really love it. It's just not for me. I'll say it in the same way. Like I think Doom 2 and Platonia, that's hitting for a certain audience, and I'm just not that audience. And I will just admit that full blown. Doom 3 for some people is a great game, just not my game. However, its expansion pack, Resurrection of Evil, I thought was better. One big problem I had with Doom 3 is its length. I think the game is just too long. And with Resurrection of Evil being, an expansion pack, it's shorter in length. It also cribs from Half-Life in a way by having its own style gravity gun, the grabber, but it's actually a very good addition. I love what you can do with the grabber. I think it's really cool. I like the new monsters in Resurrection of Evil. I like the combat encounters just feel a little tighter, and I think that's due to the fact that it is a shorter experience. So while I'm not the biggest fan of Doom 3 as a whole, I think Resurrection of Evil is a better version of Doom 3. And now we have the new Doom game, starting with Doom 2016. This game's an S. It's an S. I have a personal history with this game as well. I talked about it in the Wolfenstein video, that this game is a soft spot in my heart for... it's hard for me to separate my personal feelings with this game with the game itself. But that all being said, this is a wonderful game. It not just revitalized Doom, it also revitalized this style of first-person shooter in the mainstream. The first-person shooter revival can be thanked on Doom 2016. There were other games that came before, which one of them is on this list. We'll talk about that when we get there, but Doom 2016 hit that mainstream audience and made this genre something to love again. And I love seeing all these new games that are coming out and taking what you can do with a first-person shooter using the mentality of this Doom, but making something new and fresh. And the importance of Doom 2016 cannot be understated. I love this game. I have some minor nitpicks in that I'm not the biggest fan of the boss fights, and I think some of the late levels aren't great, but I think that's something I have a problem with a lot of these games, where I just find the endings aren't as strong as the beginnings. But Doom 2016 is such a great game, and then Doom Eternal did it better. And I know that is kind of a controversial take with some people. They're not a fan of how Doom Eternal... it's too much. There's too much of the story. There's too much of the lore. There's too much of the game kind of telling you need to play it this way. You need to use a chainsaw. You need to swap between your weapons and all this, that, and the other thing. But those elements were not elements that bothered me. I'm saying it again. Those were things that didn't bother me. They're in fact things that I loved. I loved the lore-heavy aspects of this game. I loved the weapon swapping. I loved how it constantly encouraged you to be on your feet. I loved the more arena way of the levels. I loved the platforming. I love this game embraced being a video game, and it is my favorite Doom game. If it's not Doom 1, it's Doom Eternal. Sometimes they swap. Where if I say my favorite game of all time is Doom, that might mean Doom Original or Doom Eternal. It kind of depends where I'm at the moment. I think Doom Eternal is one of the best games ever made, honestly. I also have issues of that. Again, bosses aren't great. Some of the level designs. I especially did not like the bosses in the DLC, the Ancient Gods 1 and 2. But when Doom Eternal hits, there's no other game like it, and I love it with my entire heart. And now we have the Duke Nukems. So Duke Nukem's interesting. It started off as a platformer, a 2D platformer, then turned into a first-person shooter, and in between Duke Nukem 3D and Duke Nukem Forever, there were a bunch of other games. For example, there were the console-exclusive games like Time to Kill and Land of the Babes, 0 Hour. These were third-person games, kind of had like a Tomb Raider vibe to them. There was also another platformer game, the Manhattan Project, and I think, especially as time has gone on, I really gravitate more towards the non-first-person shooter Duke games more than the first-person shooter ones. Duke 3D is a monumental game. People love this game for good reason. The levels are fantastic. What it does with the build engine is so well done. All of the items and weaponry, it's such a great game. And also having a game where the lead character is talking to you and he's quoting movies and he has like 90s machismo to it. And that was cool to have a game like this where there was character to it. But over time, on a personal level, Duke 3D has not been the game I go back to often. I think I'll put it in the B category, but that's not to again, deny the importance of Duke Nukem 3D. It's just for what I get out of Duke, I'll get more out of a game like Time to Kill. I have a console bias too, I'll admit that. I grew up more on consoles than PC, and that's really coming out with some of these game decisions I'm making, and I'm sure once we get to a game in just a little bit, that'll really come out. But now we're going to talk about Duke Nukem Forever, and this is an F. And this is coming from someone who played a lot of this game. I even platinumed it on my PS3. I got that game at a time when money was tight for me, and if I got a game, I played it as much as I could and get as much out of it as I could. And with Duke Forever, I put a lot of time into this game, so I can very easily say it's an F. There were elements that I liked. I said it again. I gotta stop doing that word. Take a shot. There are things about the game that I really liked. I didn't even mind the weapon limit. I didn't mind the platforming. But the game had a incredibly long development time. Take a look at Daikatana and Blood 2. You want to talk about some rocky development. This game went from person to team to developer to publisher. This game had a lot of hands on it, and you can tell. It feels like a hodgepodge of ideas and humor and design. Like, what even is Duke Nukem Forever? It's just a mess. You have levels like the Hive level, which is a reason why I never want to play this game again. That level is so disgusting. Even for like a Duke Nukem, which is full of misogyny and just, not the greatest things in those games. But even for Duke Nukem, that Hive level is terrible. It's an F. It's an F straight up. But then we go from an F right to an S with Dusk. Dusk is so good. Dusk is such a great game. This is one that, it feels like it's like a Quake. It has that kind of Quake, kind of PlayStation 1 graphic style, but this game is so much smarter than just being a revival. The weaponry and how you use it, your movement, how you are going from level to level, how the story is being told in those levels, the music by Andrew Hulshult. Everything about this game gels together perfectly. There are few games that feel as great as Dusk, and I know game feel is this really nebulous thing, like what's that really mean? You know, how do you properly describe that? But if you want to play a good first-person shooter, especially modern day, that feels like a tribute to an older game, Dusk is one of the best, and I cannot recommend Dusk enough. Play Dusk. And now we have my console bias coming through. GoldenEye 007. This was the game for the Nintendo 64. I could not go to a friend's house or have friends come over and not play GoldenEye. Like, everyone played this game. And now that it's been re-released on Switch and Xbox, a lot of conversation around this game is, has it aged well? Does it still hold up? And I'm going to say yes. Playing it on anything but an N64 controller is tough. It is a one-stick shooter, which is something that is kind of hard to go back to nowadays. But if you are playing it on the Xbox version, it has modernized controls. And you can still appreciate the levels, how the mission structure and the objectives are doled out, and how you go about them, and just the general, just the shooting still feels really good. GoldenEye is a game that it's hard to recommend today to some people when they just take a look at it and go like, that looks hideous, and playing it on this controller is tough. But I still think if you give it the time of day, if you haven't played it before, haven't played it in 20-something years, when did that game come out? Oh my god, how many decades has the GoldenEye been out? But the game still feels great to this day. I truly think that. I do recommend playing it on the Xbox, which is what I've been doing, and I've been loving it. I still love GoldenEye. My console bias is coming through, but it's still an A. It's an A game to me, and of course the multiplayer, and of course the importance of what it did for first-person shooters in the console space. GoldenEye is reason why we get something like Halo, and why Halo then becomes the Call of Duty games. You know, how these games keep pushing the genre in the console space. GoldenEye helped start that, and yeah, I love it. I love it. Now, this is a game I was surprised to see on this list. Gun Gods. This was a game made by the same people who did Nuclear Throne, and it has that Wolfenstein 3D feel to it, but it has great music. It has a cool art style, and just the vibe of it rules. I love Gun Gods a ton. I'm gonna put it into B. I think it's a free game as well. You can get on itch.io, and I highly recommend it. It's awesome. It's a really cool, just simple, made with a lot of love, smaller game, and I love it. I'm actually genuinely surprised to see it on this list. Gun Gods rules. You should play it. I'm gonna put that into B. And next we have Half-Life. I mean, it's Half-Life. It's a triple S. What Half-Life has done for the genre is undeniable. What Half-Life has done for games is undeniable. Having a more linear experience, but having it be very story heavy and having you as if you're in the middle of it. Half-Life is so good. It is so good. It's still great to this day, and still important to this day. My first time playing Half-Life was on the PS2, and I loved it on there too. But yeah, Half-Life, what a remarkable game Half-Life is. I love it so much. I probably won't get to it this year, but I absolutely will be playing Half-Life for this channel and talking about its importance for sure. This is a game that deserves a class cabinet lesson, no doubt. And next we have Head On. I believe it's pronounced Head On? Head On, yes. What makes this game cool is that it's built on GZ Doom, which is like the source engine used to help run Doom on modern hardware, and it has, extra bells and whistles to make the game, play well on new computers. And people have been using this source engine to make their own games. This, Sulaco, and others. Unfortunately, I haven't played it yet. I haven't played it. I really want to. I should finally play this game. It has not yet happened. But no, Head On's a really cool game, it seems. But unfortunately, I don't have much of an opinion on it yet. Now we have the Heretic and Hexen games. Now, I will admit, Uh, I don't have the best opinion on these games. Heretic is probably the one I have the most fondness for. I think that game's a B game. It's cool that it uses the Doom engine and it has that fantasy feel, and I like what it does with the Doom engine. I have like movable walls, and I loved how like, oh, this is the pistol, but it's like the wand. Like you see the transition from Doom ideas into this new setting, and it's done by Raven, who's a company I really love and respect. Now they are part of Activision, and they're part of the Call of Duty machine. But there was a time where if a game had the Raven name on it, you were getting gold. You were getting gold. And Heretic is still a really good game. It just, after a while, I can only handle so many push walls and secret switches. I would get lost way too easy during this game. It was not really the most fun. But I'm putting it in B because it was one of those games where I can't deny that it's cool. It's really cool, and I do have fun with it, but actually, you know what? No, I can't. Heretic's a C. I think Heretic's a C. Then we get Heretic 2, which I have not really played, so unfortunately I don't have anything to say there. However, Hexen. Ooh, Hexen's an F. Hexen is an F. I did first play it on the Nintendo 64, so that may be coloring some of my opinion here. I don't think it plays much better on the PC, to be honest, but Hexen being a continuation of Heretic, of the fantasy setting, and bringing in classes where you have like a barbarian and a wizard, and you know they have their own style of weapon, and you kind of level them up and it progress in more like an RPG style way. But playing this game sucks. I don't like playing it. I think it's everything I don't like about Heretic is tenfold in Hexen. So I wanted to love Hexen, because like, alright, Heretic, more of that. Yes, please. But it's not a good game. I don't like it. From what I understand, Hexen 2 is better, but I have not gotten to it because why would I want to after how much I don't like Hexen? I think Hexen's a terrible game. Just a terrible game. Next we have Herat, which has people described as Russian Quake. I haven't played it yet, but it's one of those things where the more and more I see of it, it seems really great. I think episode 2 is out. I don't know how far along in development that game is. There's going to be more coming out around the corner or anything like that. But what is out seems cool. I just haven't given it the time of day yet. And now we have Ion Fury, which I didn't really care for. Honestly, like, it's cool that it's made on the E32 Duke source engine, which is basically using that way to play Duke on modern hardware the same way Head-On uses the thing to make Doom run better on modern hardware. So it's like a new build engine game, but build engine games are not really ones that grab my attention as much, and there's some more build games on here we'll talk about when we get to them. But Ion Fury didn't do much for me, to be honest. I wanted to love it because the Shelly Bombshell character, she was a character who was originally going to be in one of the original drafts of Duke Nukem Forever, and then she had her own game with Bombshell with music by Andrew Hulshult. And I just don't like Ion Fury. I know people really love it. I think it's a little overrated. I'm not a fan. Also, too, there was that moment where when the game came out, the devs got exposed for saying, transphobic things on their Discord, and there was full-blown homophobic slurs hidden inside the game that you would need to clip through the walls, literally break through the walls to see it, but it's still there, and I don't trust developers who use that language and talk that way about people within the LGBTQ community. I'm not about it. So, you know what? Is it an F? For me, yes, it's an F. Just for those reasons, I think it's an F game because I don't like playing it. I think it's a little overrated. And then on top of what the developers did. So I'm not a fan of Ion Fury. That's an F. That's an F for me. Speaking of F, Island Peril as well. Horrible game. Really bad game. when Doom came out, a lot of people looked at first-person shooters as just Doom clones, and this is a game that feels like it wants to be a Doom clone. It's ugly. It's a really ugly game. It just doesn't look great, doesn't sound great. It also has some like real bad racial stereotypes. Bad game all around. F. Absolutely an F. Now we have less of an F. Let's get out of this F party. We have Nightmare Reaper. This is an A. This is an A game. Absolutely an A. It has like some roguelike elements. It has Andrew Hulshult music. I'm not the biggest fan of the pixelated art style. I think there's some things that just don't really mesh with me design-wise. But when the speed of this game, your variety of weapons, your variety of levels, what a cool game. Nightmare Reaper is just so well figured out. It knows what it wants to be, and it succeeds on all counts. Nightmare Reaper rules, and I would love to play it more. I cannot recommend it enough. And also, that Andrew Hulshult song soundtrack, it's one of my favorites of his. He kills it with Nightmare Reaper. And now we're going back to Capstone with Operation Body Count, and boy howdy, we got another F on our hands. Oh, what a bad game. This is another one of those. I have a soft spot for it. My dad and I would play it a lot. I actually was just playing it about like sometime at the end of last year. It's a bad game though. It's also built on the Wolfenstein 3D engine, but it's done poorly. It has unending levels that all bleed into each other. Everything about this game just feels incompetent. I will usually play it for a laugh, but yeah, that game's an F. Straight up an F. Now we're going back to some of that console goodness with Perfect Dark, the spiritual successor to GoldenEye 007. And I did not play Perfect Dark as much as I played GoldenEye. I did not have the required expansion pack to do the whole single-player campaign. I had friends who had the expansion pack but wouldn't let me borrow it. So I couldn't play it. I also couldn't play Majora's Mask or Donkey Kong 64. So Perfect Dark, unfortunately, was one of those games that took me a long time to really play. And when I finally did play it, I really liked it. But very much like GoldenEye, I highly recommend playing it on Xbox with a rare replay if you have Game Pass. Because they modernized the controls, they cleaned up the graphics, but it still plays really well. It has that GoldenEye mission structure where the objectives can kind of be solved in any order, and sometimes how you solve the order can be up to you, or solve the objectives, I should say. Perfect Dark is great. I think it's a really good game. I know console bias, but I think Perfect Dark is still a great game. I'm putting it in the A category. Absolutely an A. But again, play it on Xbox with that modernized control scheme. And now we're going through a game that was one of my games of the year of 2022, and that's Proteus. I love Proteus. I love Proteus. It also has that Andrew Hulshult goodness. But the music is great. The art style is great. I love the graphics, having that chunky, pixelated feel. Everything about this game feels wet and heavy. Which, if you don't know what Proteus looks like, that sounds gross. But I think it really succeeds on just what does it want to be. It wants to be like Doom, but bigger. And I think it really succeeds on all of that. While you have some monsters that are like, that's the imp from Doom, that's the pink demon from Doom, that's the lost soul from Doom. Like, there absolutely is those Doom analogs. But what the game does with its level design, what it does with how you unlock weapons, how you have the extra challenge levels, it's great. I think Proteus, much like Dusk and Nightmare Reaper and all the other games that I really have, I love up on the top, they are so well figured out. They know what they want to be, and they focus on being the best at it. And Proteus is one of those games. And then we have Project Warlock. Absolutely triple S. Absolutely a triple S. I love Project Warlock. I cannot talk enough about how much I love Project Warlock. I love the art style. I keep saying the art style, the graphics, but Project Warlock is the one that really nails it for me. I loved its pixelated look. I loved how smooth the animation is. I love how you can upgrade your magic, upgrade your weapons, and the way those weapons upgrade all feel awesome. This is a game that, due to the kind of like bite-sized nature of the levels, you can just pick up and play and go as far as you want, or take a breather, come back, do some more. The game, oh god, I'm at a loss of words. I love Project Warlock. Play it. That's what I gotta say. It's my triple S for a reason. I love Project Warlock. Now we're getting to Quake. Quake is good. Quake is good stuff. But when we talk about these 4 Quake games, Arcane Dimensions is like Death Wish, the add-on for Blood. This was like a fan-made, community-supported thing. Unfortunately, I have not played it, so I'm going to put it there. But with Quake 1, 2, 3, and 4, all of these games are different enough from each other to be their own important specific thing. Quake 1 did not have the easiest development period, but it has them more of that like gothic horror feel throughout most of the game. Quake 2 has that sci-fi, all the enemies look kind of like that mixture of human technology and like monster flesh, so it kind of like, it's like you're fighting the Borg from Star Trek, but it's like really heavy metal, especially with the music. Quake 3 is a multiplayer focused Quake game, which has fantastic levels. What a fun arena shooter that Quake 3 is. Quake 4 is almost like a direct continuation of Quake 2, but was made by Raven and also had more of a kind of a console approach to things, especially when the game came out on the 360. So all 4 of these games, even though they're connected, are still their own game. So where some games go on this list might change from day to day for me. Quake 1 might be here, but then Quake 2 will take its place and Quake 1 will go higher up. I have very strong opinions towards these games. Quake 1 is awesome, but at the moment, what am I going to do with Quake 2? I constantly go back and forth on Quake and Quake 2 of which ones I like more, but you know what? That all being said, I think Quake and Quake 2, those are A games. I think Quake and Quake 2 are definitely A games. I think I prefer Quake 2 right now over Quake 1. I'm just more into the music that Sonic Mayhem did more than the music that Trent Reznor did in the first Quake. That'll go a long way for me. But these games, very different first-person shooters, very different Quake games, but still great, still really great. And also the technical aspects that these games brought to the table for gaming is also very important. Now with Quake 3, I'm not much of a multiplayer person, so I don't have a lot to say about Quake 3 other than I like playing it, but I don't have the same type of reverence for this that others might have. So I'm going to put Quake 3 in the B category, and Quake 4 I think I'll also put into the B category. I don't mind the more console-focused aspect of it. I don't even mind that since it's built on the Doom 3 engine. There seems to be some very similar design ideas between Doom 3 and Quake 4. I think Quake 4 is a better Doom 3. But Quake 4 is good. It's good. I like Quake 4. It's no Quake 2, but I like Quake 4. I think that game gets an unfair amount of hate. And this is coming from someone who thinks Doom 3 is not a good game, so take what I say with a grain of salt. Now we have the Redneck Rampage games. I'm not a fan. These are Fs. These are Fs. I hate playing these games. I hate looking at these games. I think they're just unfunny. I think they play like garbage. I never liked Redneck Rampage. And I remember being a kid when you would still see a lot of PC games at the store. We would go and go to the computer stores, and I would constantly see these Redneck Rampage boxes. And like, what is this game? I wonder what it is. I know it's a first-person shooter. I know I'm shooting things like Doom, but what is it? And then I finally got to play when I got older, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I never played these when I was a kid. because I probably would have been like, no, it's okay, I can play through them and have like a soft spot for these the same way I do Carter 7 and Operation Body Count. But I don't like these games. Rides Again apparently is better than the other one, but from what time I put into both of these games, I don't care. I just don't care. I think Redneck Rampage sucks. Now we have Wrecker, and if this is what I think it is, this is a Doom mod. Because you can get this as an add-on for the new versions of Doom. You get like on consoles and PC. You get this like a free add-on, and I believe it's getting its own standalone sequel or has already come out. But I really enjoy Wrecker. It is this really cool Viking feel to it, it's like kind of mythology feel to it, I guess is the better way to put it. I think it's awesome. I haven't put enough time into it, but what time I have played of it, I really dig it. I think Wrecker is a cool way to do something in the Doom engine. Oh boy, here we go. Now we got Rise of the Triad. I love this game. Rise of the Triad Dark War rules. This was a game that was made by Tom Hall after he had left id Software. He was someone who worked on Doom and Commander Keen and Wolfenstein. So you see a lot of those ideas, that humor, that gameplay come through clear as day in Rise of the Triad. It's a weird game. It's got really weird enemies, and it was intended to be a sequel to Wolfenstein 3D, but ended up being its own thing over time. And what a cool game. The music by Lee Jackson's incredible. The game makes me laugh. And it's about to be re-released to run better on new computers and consoles, and I cannot wait. I think this game is just a very special brand of silly that I love so much. And now we have the remake done by Interceptor, which also has Andrew Hulshult Goodness, who did the music for this game, doing covers of Lee Jackson's score. And it's a game that's made with a lot of heart, but it is not the most well put together game. This is also one of those games, one of those early first person shooter, people now call boomer shooters. This is one of those early boomer shooter revival style games. It didn't catch on in the same way something like Doom 2016 did, but it's a cool game. It's just not the most well put together game. I try not to use the word jank a lot, but it's pretty janky. It's a miracle this game isn't falling apart at the seams. But again, it's made by a team who had a lot of love, and it comes through. But yeah, what a weird game. What a weird, important game, but weird. Now we have Shadow Warrior. I have never liked Shadow Warrior. I never liked Shadow Warrior. I never liked the character of Lo Wang, the Asian stereotypes in the game. I've always preferred playing Duke Nukem over this one. I just don't like it. To the point that even the new Shadow Warrior's out, the new trilogy of games, I don't even like those either. I just think Shadow Warrior is not for me. I find this game to be more annoying than enjoyable. I've never liked Shadow Warrior. I've always tried to give it the time of day, but no, it's a D for me. Sin, unfortunately, I have yet to play. I know it had a sequel that was using the Source engine, which is what Half-Life 2 and later Valve games would be running off of, and apparently that game is also kind of weird. But the original Sin, I did not mean that pun, but that original Sin game apparently has like some just very 90s tude, very 90s attitude, but is genuinely a fun and cool game. I just haven't played it yet. But I have played the hell out of this one. Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. That's a B game for me. I like Star Trek. I think Elite Force is just a really cool game, and I think it's really cool. I first played this game on the PlayStation 2, and it ran like garbage. But I think it's one of those games that is made by people who do respect Star Trek. Even if it's in this weird first-person shooter shell, it is made by people who wanted to make a good Star Trek game. And I love the attention to detail, like when you're in the Borg cubes or you're fighting Klingons and the weaponry you're using. It's a cool game. I would love to play this again. Not the sequel. Elite Force 2 is not good. But Elite Force 1, still a really cool game. Even on the PS2, even though it runs at like 15 frames per second. I like Elite Force a lot. And now we have the Dark Forces games, the Star Wars games, and Dark Forces 1, I remember not liking that level design for a lot of it, even Dark Forces 2. I'm more into Dark Forces 2. I like the 3D worlds of Dark Forces 2. I love the levels in that game more than the first one. I like the character of Kyle Katarn. I love in the second game when you get to go really wild with lightsabers and force powers. And I think I like Dark Forces 2 just a little bit more. Yeah, I'll put Dark Forces 1 in the C and 2 into the B category. I remember just really having more of an appreciation for 2 more than 1. And the big thing is just the level design, I think, is the big determining factor for that one for me. Strife. This is a game that has now been re-released thanks to Night Dive Studio, who also did a great job on Quake and Doom 64, and there's also 2 other games in this list that Night Dive helped bring back from the dead that I'll talk about in a bit. Strife, though, is really cool. It's built in the Doom engine, and it has, like, you're going to NPCs, you're going to shops. It's like actual, like, almost RPG, I guess, the best way to describe it. I have not played it enough, though. I have it from my computer, I have it from my Switch, but I have not sat down with it. One day I will. This is on the top of my list of I really need to give Strife the time of day. So unfortunately, I don't have much of an opinion on it. And I also don't have much of an opinion yet on Super Noah's Ark 3D. I haven't really played it yet. This game is really interesting in that it was made in the Wolfenstein 3D engine because it's basically a hack of Wolfenstein 3D that was made to run on the Super Nintendo. This was one of those unlicensed religious games that would come out around this time. So it's just Christian Wolfenstein 3D where you play as Noah and you're shooting food at animals and helping them go to sleep so you can get them on the Ark. And it's a silly concept, and this is probably the #1 most requested game I get to stream. The other #1 was Chex Quest, which is not on this list, and I have streamed that. But no, Super 3D Noah's Ark is one of those games that I need to play one day. It will happen, but not yet there. And System Shock. I feel bad here because I am just not the audience for System Shock. These are 2 very important games, incredible games, landmark games even, but I just don't have a great time playing them. They're just not for me. So for the sake of how my opinion on these games are, I'm just going to say they're important, but I don't like playing them. So I'm going to put them in the bottom. That's totally a me thing. I'm not going to say they're not games that are not worthy to talk about or that they're not incredible games, but yeah, just not for me. Night Dive did handle a remaster of System Shock 1 so that it feels like, someone once said, it feels like you're playing an operating system playing System Shock 1. But they also working on a remaster, or remake, I should say, as well. Maybe I'll give that remake of System Shock 1 a try when it's finished. But for the time being, System Shock 2, don't have much of an opinion. William Shatner's Tech War, though, that's an F. We're ending our capstone take on games with William Shatner's Tech War. And I don't mind Tech War. I've read the books. I actually even have some Tech War comic books. But the game, which is built on the build engine, is not good. It has that same complaint they had with Operation Body Count, where it's like, it feels incompetent. Like, it wants to be something, but has no idea how to get there. I think the game looks bad, it plays bad, and then you have these, like, cyber levels where you're going through the internet and cyberspace. And they are seizure-inducing because of the amount of flashing and just a lot of lights going off and on, and it sucks. It really sucks. Tech War is an F, straight up. Next, we have the Terminator games. These were originally made by Bethesda, if I'm correct. Todd Howard, known for Fallout, his Fallout fame, has had a hand in these, but I have not played them yet. I've played a lot of Terminator games. Like, oh my god, have I played a lot of Terminator games. But these are two that have escaped me. I have not played these ones. If you want to talk about Terminator 3 on the PS3 that had scenes recreating like the moments from the movie, and then you would see like the TX, and you would have like a fight scene that looks like a fighting game where all of a sudden it goes from first person to 2D plane fighting game, and it's using all the stuff that was made for a game called Fugitive Hunter, which has you hunting Osama bin Laden at the end of the game. You want to talk about those games? You want to talk about that Terminator game? I'm down. But these ones, don't have much of an opinion on. But Terminator 3 on the PS2, holy shit. Boy howdy, let's talk about a good series of games, Turok. I love Turok. I love Turok. Turok 1 and Turok 2, especially 2. Turok, oh, that's the wrong game. Go back. Turok 2, that's an A. Absolutely an A game. No, you know what? No, Turok 2 is an S. Turok 1 is an A, for sure. Turok, those games, again, console bias, were great on the N64. Even better now because of the work Night Dive did to make these run better and play and sound better on modern hardware. I love these games. Turok 2, though, I really appreciated the scope of the game. The levels are massive. There's so much to do in these levels. You get a lot of bang for your buck in Turok 2. 1 is a tighter experience, but I love what 2 does. And yeah, definitely I think they belong in the S and A categories for sure. Now we have Ultra Kill, the S. It's an S game. Ultra Kill is some of the best style I have ever seen in a first-person shooter. And much like the other games that are in the S category, triple S category, it's a game that knows exactly what it wants to be and is the best version of it. It's so fast. It's so well done. I love the levels. Oh, do I love the levels in this game. I love how much, just like, the things you can do with the main character. And like, watching speedruns of Ultra Kill is awe-inspiring. What a cool, smart game. It has a wonderful set of tools that you can just do incredible things with. Very similar to Doom Eternal. While Doom Eternal is a slower game than Ultra Kill, it has that same idea of like, here are your weapons, here are your abilities, here are your enemies. Go. What inventive ways can you handle this combat encounter? And these combat encounters are very well designed. Ultra Kill is so cool. It's cool. That's the best word for it. It's cool. And now we have the Unreal games. Much like Quake, Unreal has gone through some changes. The first Unreal is really remembered for its environment. It starts off on a ship that's seemingly gone bad. Everything is spooky and scary, and it's these metal interiors. And as soon as you get out of the ship that's been crash landed on this planet, you walk out the ship, and the first thing you see is this wide vista and waterfalls and wildlife coming to you. And it is one of those things that makes you realize, like, gaming has changed. Unreal has changed games. It is an awesome game. It's one that I would love to put more time into, but what Unreal has done for games is undeniable and I think is incredible. What a great series of games. Now, Unreal then got its own actual official sequel many years later, Unreal 2, which was very much console focused in the same way Quake 4 was, but missed the mark. I think Unreal 2 is very deserving of the shellacking it gets. It's not a good game. However, while there wasn't really any more continuations of a single-player focused Unreal, the multiplayer side of the game, much like Quake 3, became the more focused thing. Unreal Tournament is really good. I will say, again, I am not much of a multiplayer person. So I don't have the much to say here other than it's really good at what it does, very good at what it does. I'm just not the audience for it, but Unreal Tournament is incredible. Like an incredible game that I am incredibly bad at. And looks like I was wrong. There's still one more capstone game, but I have not played it. Witch Haven, which is their fantasy style game, which I believe is also built on the Build engine. I don't like it. From what I can see, like, this wouldn't be a game I'd like anyway, but I haven't played it, so I'm not going to have much to say here. And now we're nearing the end, and we have all of our Wolfenstein games plus Wrath, Aeon of Ruin. Unfortunately, I have not played that. I'm going to put it right over there, but the game looks great, I just haven't played it yet. But now we have the Wolfenstein games, and that's where we're going to end on here. Wolfenstein 3D. It's Wolfenstein 3D, man. It's Wolfenstein 3D. I'm currently playing through all these levels for a reason. It's a great game. One of the best. It's a game that I think is hard to go back to for some players because of how limiting it feels, but I think it's just a great arcade experience. I think the game has the most, basic elements of a first-person shooter boiled down to: you walk in the level, you shoot things, you find secrets, you get out of the level, and that's it. How well can we do that? And I think it does it very well. Spear of Destiny is a continuation of what Wolf 3D does. I think Wolf 3D just has, some better levels. So Spear is going to go into the A, but it's, again, plays like Wolfenstein 3D. It's just more of it, and how good can we do it? Return to Castle Wolfenstein is awesome. What a great game. This is one of those where, again, I played this on console. I played it on PS2 first, and I still loved it. Return to Castle Wolfenstein is great. It takes the... and Wolfenstein didn't get as much... here is what is Wolfenstein. It's always this thing. Wolfenstein has always been more haphazard, where it's like, what game am I getting here? You don't know what you're getting from Wolfenstein to Wolfenstein. And with Return to Castle Wolfenstein, it has big weapons. It has the story of, the Nazis are now trying to resurrect the people using the occult. And it's like, what's happening? Where are we? And you're fighting mummies and zombies and these look like these ancient beings. And then you have all of these crazy experiments and you get Tesla guns. It's like, this is Wolfenstein? But the levels and the way they are designed is also incredibly good. Return to Castle Wolfenstein is awesome, and for some people, it's the best Wolfenstein. I would argue it's the one that Raven made. I'm putting this into Triple S. I'm not even gonna front here. This is my favorite Wolfenstein. It is the one that Raven made. And yes, like Quake 4, and yes, like Unreal 2 that I mentioned earlier, it was more console focused, but it's very good. I loved getting the Thule medallion and getting all these different power-ups and upgrades. I loved the levels, even the hub levels, which probably could have had a little more polish to them. I didn't mind the hub levels. I loved exploring. I loved finding all the hidden documents and treasures and upgrading all my weapons. I just loved every second of this game, and again, it's unfortunately delisted, so you can't play the game or easily find the game, I should say, on Steam or whatever. But it's still a good game. I love that Wolfenstein, and I know I'm in the minority with that one. A lot of people are not a fan, but I love it so much. I cannot get enough of it, and I wish I can get it on my computer today. And finally, we have the 4 Wolfenstein games made by Machine Games, and I have some mixed feelings towards these ones. I think the New Order is great. That's an A game. I love how it had that alternate timeline to Wolfenstein. It was taking the more wild elements of Return to Castle Wolfenstein and doing something even fresher and new with it. And again, that idea that Wolfenstein can kind of be these different things, the story and the human element of Wolfenstein New Order is not in other Wolfenstein games. I actually love the character interactions in this game. I love the way the story is presented. I think this game is great, and it's one that I would love to keep playing. It's New Order, it's Raven Wolfenstein. I think it's a great game. The Old Blood is also very good. This was a kind of sort of expansion pack. You could also get it standalone, which actually feels like a recreation of elements from, I gotta say it one more time, a recreation of levels and elements from Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And I think it's very fun, really well done. Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus. Not as tight as New Order. Across the board, the humor is more wacky, but then the game's also more serious. The levels are tougher, but they're not as tightly designed. There's something that Wolfenstein 2 is trying to aim for, but I don't think it sticks the landing. Still a really cool game. I think it's a good Wolfenstein game, but if you were to say, hey, do I play New Order or New Colossus? I'm going to say stick with New Order. And then finally we have Young Blood, and this is a C for me, kind of middle of the road. I didn't mind what this game was doing, having a more multiplayer focus where you can, if you're not playing with two people, you have a computer-controlled player with you. The levels are all like hub levels. Arcane, who is known for the Dishonored games, and Deathloop had a hand in making this one. And I think that dev team's style really came through, or it was more noticeable. The game's fine. I played it all on my Switch, had a good time with it, but it's definitely, like, taking a look at what Wolfenstein games, these new ones were going, it's definitely the weakest of the bunch. You want to play a good Wolfenstein game, play the one that Raven made. Oh wait, you can't get it anymore. But there it is. Here's our list. And what a weird list I have in front of me. But there it is. I had a lot of fun making this. It's my little weird opinions coming through in HD. But I will have this list on the bottom in the description. I would love to see what yours was like. Where do you put these games? Which ones haven't you played? Which ones do you love? Do you disagree with mine? I'm sure someone will. But please stay tuned here on the Class Cabinet YouTube, and also over at Twitch as we go through all the Wolfenstein 3D, and just loving this first-person shooter genre. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and I love you all. Good night.